Know that. I don't want to pick on the Federal Reserve. I just want to treat them like everybody else. And my sense is, and I think your numbers can prove or disprove this, but my sense is that it is easier to divorce your spouse than get fired at the Federal Reserve.
And can do its job. Senator Kennedy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. General, welcome. Help me. I tried to listen carefully to my colleagues, but I'm still a little bit confused. You've been IG since 2011, and you do a lot of internal investigations. In other words, did some particular employee at the Fed not do their job? Is that correct?
Yes.
About how many of those you think you've done?
Well, in terms of investigations of potential misconduct or wrongdoing, we have typically had a running average of about 60 or 70 of those. Obviously, the pandemic.
Is that total? 60, 70 a year?
No, at any point in time.
Okay.
Many of them are closed. New ones come in through our hotline, which we open up. But that's typically a rough gauge for how many investigations we have pending.
Since you've been there in 2011, again, I'm talking internal investigations, would 500 sound right?
I'd have to look into it. I don't want to give you a
No,
number.
I'm not going to hold you to it. Wasn't many. Is it more? You think it's more than 500?
I would like to look into it and get you an exact number.
Okay. In what percentage of the cases, just ballpark, do you find wrongdoing?
Again, it would be a wild guess, and I'm not comfortable giving one to you, but we can certainly look into that and develop those numbers for you.
Frankly, I would have thought would have that before you came today. We think it's more than half?
No, I would not think so.
More than a quarter?
That's where I'm uncomfortable.
Well, is it happen frequently that you find wrongdoing, or infrequently?
It's not infrequent.
It's not infrequent? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And when you find wrongdoing, are the people who committed the wrongdoing, according to your report, fired?
Sometimes.
Okay. What percentage are fired?
Again, sir, I would like to get you a specific number if that's what you'd like.
Yeah, I think if you could get us that number, and perhaps we could do this again. Because I think people have the right to know that. I don't want to pick on the Federal Reserve. I just want to treat them like everybody else. And my sense is, and I think your numbers can prove or disprove this, but my sense is that it is easier to divorce your spouse than get fired at the Federal Reserve. And if that's the case, we're entitled to know that. It's a lot of money over there. And that's not a criticism of anybody. And tell me again about your salary. It's the average of what?
It's the average of both the salary and the bonus that is attributed to the other individuals who are similarly situated in terms of the organizational structure, which for me is the division director level. So there are 12 other individuals, and it's the average of their salary plus bonus.
Okay. So there are about 13 of you, and your salary is set on the average of the 13.
That is the case for all DFEIGs. That's in the IG Act as the formula to be used.
Just asking, are the others set that way too?
The
12 other ones whose salaries are used to get your salary?
I'm not aware of how those are established.
Okay. And do you get a bonus?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do the others get a bonus?
Yes, that's part of that average that I mentioned.
Okay. Do all 12 of the others get a bonus?
I don't know the answer to that.
Do they get a bonus when they say inflation is transitory and it's not? Do they still get their bonus?
I don't have the answer to that.
Okay. How do we get that information?
Requested from the Federal Reserve folks.
How about we call the IG? Can you get it for us?
IG should not be in the position of getting information to turn over if we're not otherwise engaged in an audit or evaluation or investigation.
I know you're in the, if I could have 30 more seconds. I know you're in the process of looking at the bank failures, and I don't want you to, I'm not trying to put you on the spot because you don't know yet, but I find two things ironic. Maybe irony is the wrong wrong word to use, but as a result of well, strike that. It seems that ever since the Great Recession, we've been very concerned, as we should be, about banks that are too big to fail. Big is dangerous. I'm not against big. I'm against dumb. So, but if you have an institution that is really, really big and it does something dumb, it hurts a lot of people. Nobody ever goes to jail, but that's a separate story. But it looks to me like, as a result of these recent failures, that our big banks are getting bigger. And I find that ironic. Again, maybe the wrong word. I don't know if you're going to look at that in your studies.
Well, Senator, that strikes me as being a straight-ahead policy issue. Or the Federal Reserve Board decides what rules of engagement for the supervision of banks at different sizes, tailoring. All of those are supervisory, policy-based decisions, and the IGs are prohibited from getting involved in overseeing policy.
Senator Warren and I may disagree with this, but we disagree a lot, but we still like each other. But see, if I ask Mr. Barr that question, I think the answer I'm going to get is, look, the problem with the bank failures is the management did dumb things, and they were incompetent. And yeah, some of my regulators were not as proactive as they should have been, but it's Trump's fault. Trump ain't my homework. And I don't think that's a candid assessment of the situation. The other thing that I find curious, and I'm going to ask Mr. Barr about this. Traditionally, when banks get in trouble, you don't go out and shout it. We're in trouble. They call the regulators, say, we got a problem here. Or the regulators spot it and they go in. And to prevent a bank run or panic, they handle it quietly. And the regulators will call around with other banks that are healthier and say, can we affect a marriage here? And that doesn't seem to be what's happening. And as a result, the healthy banks that would normally come in and help for a fair price, and help the failed bank, the healthy banks, they're pretty smart. They're waiting. They're going, no, we don't want to come in too early. Let's let them go under. And then we'll come in and we'll get a great deal, and the taxpayers will have to guarantee all our potential losses. Can you look into that? Because if I ask Mr. Barr, God bless him, he's just going to say, it's the fault of the bank presidents and Trump ate my homework. So I'm looking for somebody who can help us answer those.
To the extent that you're asking, Senator, about the process of once a bank fails, what does the Fed, what does the FDIC do in terms of trying to get another bank to come in and take over or buy its operations? That would be kind of post-failure, so that wouldn't be part of our current review, material loss reviews, but we can consider looking into the kind of post-failure issues like that, or discussions that may have been had with the other financial regulators.
I'm taking too long, but here's what I'm getting to. And this is not a criticism of J.P. Morgan or Mr. Diamond. I have great respect for both of them. But the deal they made is a good deal. I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't have made a good deal for their shareholders. But the truth is, the deal was so good, if we still had white pages, you could open up the white pages, put your hand over your eyes, and pick a name and say, we're giving you this deal. And it would be successful. Because the taxpayers had to guarantee 80% of the losses. And somebody needs to look at that.
Senator, I'd be happy to come up and talk to you further about that, have my team come up and discuss it with you and your staff and see if there's a way.
But I want to talk about it in front of the American people.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we can start by having a conversation in your office if you'd like. It's up to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Senator Kennedy, I want to follow up on something.
And so that is where this hearing ends. Senator John Kennedy, leaning back in that southern theatrical cadence of his, staring directly at the Inspector General of the Federal Reserve, pressing him on the simplest, most fundamental question in oversight. When wrongdoing happens inside the most powerful and most insulated central bank on earth, does anybody ever actually get fired? And in that moment, you could feel it. The entire power structure that sits behind the Federal Reserve the part the public almost never actually sees, got dragged into daylight because the IG could not or would not or strategically chose not to commit to a number, not a percentage, not a range, not even a directional conviction. Couldn't say how many internal investigations resulted in accountability, couldn't say how many people lost their job, couldn't even say if wrongful conduct actually leads to consequences more than occasionally. And Kennedy, for all his theatrics, for all his self-aware, folksy delivery, hits the one sentence that cuts through every evasive answer in this room like a blade. It is easier to divorce your spouse than to get fired at the Federal Reserve. This is the rare moment in Congress where the mask slips off the institution itself, not just the political tribe. This is where the hearing crosses from partisan conflict into systemic revelation. Because the Federal Reserve is not a small agency. It is not a normal workplace. It is the central steering wheel of the global financial system. It is the entity that gets to define what price stability even means. It is the entity that picks winners and losers through structural monetary design. And yet the Inspector General, the person whose literal job is to investigate the misconduct inside the most powerful economic engine in the country, cannot tell the United States Senate if wrongdoing actually results in real accountability. This is the exact moment where America sees the absurdity of our era and the quiet, elegant institutional capture that exists without a headline. We obsess over culture war. We obsess over screaming viral clips. We obsess over theatrical conflict. But the real power is held behind systems like this, where people can fail upward, where people can be wrong spectacularly, publicly, consequentially, and still get the bonus, where people can call inflation transitory and never have to answer for it, where the cost of being wrong is paid by the public, and the reward for being wrong is collected internally. Kennedy names the thing directly. These failures have led to concentration of even more power into even fewer banks. Big gets bigger. And when big does something dumb, America pays. The public pays. The taxpayers pay. The depositors pay. And the people who mismanaged their way into collapse get a golden conveyor belt exit built on the quiet guarantee that the system will never allow their failure to fully land on them personally. In a functional republic, this would be the scandal. In a functioning democracy, this would be the crisis. But here, it's just another Wednesday hearing. This is what makes this moment so important. This hearing is not about style. It is not about Kennedy's swagger. It is not about partisan character performance. It is about the quiet admission that inside the single most powerful economic institution in the United States, we don't actually punish failure. We don't punish misconduct. We don't punish incompetence. We structurally absorb it. And then we let the consequences cascade downward onto every worker, every household, every mortgage holder, every retiree, every consumer who never got a vote in any of this. That is the deeper danger. A democracy cannot survive if the most powerful institutions in that democracy never fear consequences. A democracy cannot survive if the public only absorbs pain, while executive elites only absorb insulation. A democracy cannot survive if the cost of systemic failure is always collectivized and the profit of systemic success is always privatized. That is how republics rot, not in a single overthrow, not in a single coup, not in a single dramatic moment, but atom by atom, quietly, structurally, bureaucratically, through the normalization of unaccountable power. This hearing matters because it reveals the structural design flaw that is killing faith in American government. People see that the rules never apply equally. They see that the system protects its own. They see that the same people who lecture them about responsibility never actually face it themselves. If this is not confronted, if this is not broken open, if this is not corrected, the collapse of trust in government will not be irrational. It will be rational. The country cannot sustain a future where the Federal Reserve is allowed to operate as a consequence-free sovereign inside a consequence-based democracy. This is not a left versus right argument. This is a democracy versus unaccountable power argument. And if America cannot recognize that distinction, if America keeps allowing spectacle to distract them from how the system actually works, then America will lose the system entirely. This moment is a warning. This hearing is a warning. And the people who understand what this is must speak louder than the people who profit from keeping it opaque. If you care about democratic accountability, if you care about real oversight, if you care about breaking this pattern before it calcifies beyond repair, subscribe to Liberal Line.